Some new Fire Warrior stats spotted in the wild, decent improvements to all the pulse weapons, missile pods get AP -2, and shield drones are getting 2 wounds. Let's take a look at what we've got. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where Games Workshop League season is continuing in full force. Never mind the Custodes and the Genestealer Cult codexes that are coming out very shortly, we're just getting ever more details about the Eldar and Tau. I will certainly be hard at work at both of those codex reviews and they'll be out shortly, but in the meantime let's take a look at some Fire Warrior stats. Fire Warriors along with battlesuits are some of the most iconic Tau units around. Back in 8th edition I think spamming mass Fire Warriors could be a semi-viable tactic, though as time and codexes crept on, they really haven't been such a great firepower source in their own right. Currently in some of the most competitive Tau lists, Fire Warrior Breacher squads are perhaps the more competitive option. Their guns are really quite close range, but when they do get there they've got enough damage to be quite meaningful, and they synergise very well with the Farsight Enclaves, generally seen as the best way to play Tau at the moment. A couple of squads in Devilfish don't really seem like the worst idea for a reasonably threatening troops choice that can deal a bit of damage and then probably die on some midfield objectives while contesting them. Previously, Games Workshop have already shown off some pulse weapons for us. The pulse rifles are going to be going to Rapid Fire 1, 36 inches, Strength 5, AP -1 and Damage 1. Basically plus 6 inches and an extra pip of AP there, both of which are good things. Though I must admit maybe not as crazily scary as things like the Skitarii Rangers when the Admech Codex first dropped. It is still going to be some pretty devastating damage output in rapid fire range though, which is going to be all the way out to 18 inches now. Personally I don't really feel that they're very well balanced against the pulse carbines. They're Assault 2 and 24 inch range now, so a bit longer range, but they don't get any AP, so I don't really think they're going to compete very well with the pulse rifles. Overall though, the standard Fire Warrior is certainly looking a lot more solid, particularly with those close range firepower buffs that you can get from Montcar or Kauyon. Now though, we've got another one of our leaks packaging datasheets, and as well as the pulse rifle changes, there's changes to missile pods, smart missiles, and the Breacher team's pulse blaster. The generic Fire Warrior stat line is pretty similar to how it was before. The Tau aren't getting any sort of faction-wide ballistic skill boost. The basic Fire Warriors are still going to be hitting on 4s at range and at 5s in melee. I am wondering whether Markerlight tokens might give them slightly easier access to +1 ballistic skill. I guess we'll have to wait and see for the codex. In any case, the only actual change to their stat line is going up +1 leadership. That one's a slightly surprising one to be honest. The general trend for the non-fearless armies is that leadership hasn't really been getting any easier for them, so going up to be just as brave as Space Marines is kind of surprising in my opinion. Maybe the leadership buff is to represent the bonding knife ritual, and remove a little bit of complexity there, rather than countering leadership roles of a 6. Otherwise though, getting into the really interesting stuff, there's a slightly buffed profile for the missile pod, and it's included on this datasheet as it's mounted on their DS8 tactical support turret. Missile pods are only 30 inch range now, so there is actually a small nerf there, but it looks like they're AP -2 and damage 2, rather than AP -1 and damage D3. I'd say that overall it looks like a slight buff to missile pods. I don't think the range is usually going to be the biggest deal, 30 inches is still pretty solid, and AP -2 is going to be far more threatening against heavily armoured opponents, whether it's Grey Knight, Dread Knights, or light vehicles. Damage 2 isn't in a particularly good place right now though I guess. Most standard weapons that were previously damage D3 have been going to damage 2, and with the amount of -1 damage going around, they can be a little bit risky to include in the force. So perhaps a bit of a side grade rather than an upgrade for the missile pod, a little bit better against hunting things in light armour, particularly 2-wound infantry. It's a kind of similar story for the smart missiles as well. They're also a 30 inch range weapon, they were before though. They still get their 4 shots, and they strike at strength 5 AP -1 now, rather than AP 0. That's a pretty solid improvement to the smart missiles. I think they legitimately are one of the scariest things in the Tau Empire Codex. Just having so many ignores line of sight shots can be really quite intimidating for any infantry trying to take objectives. My first thought with seeing the AP -1 is whether or not they might have traded that for the ignores cover mechanic. Effectively AP -1 is likely to counter light cover whenever you get it, but this would usually be a buff to the smart missile system, as you'll counter light cover when you're shooting at it, but you'll also get an extra AP -1 at any targets in the open. That would be my personal theory, and in any case it does look like they might be getting a bit more bite. Finally, for the Breacher teams, we have a new profile for their Pulse Blaster. Previously it had 3 different ranges of different strengths and threats. Now the profile has been consolidated a little bit. It's only got 2 different profiles, one at 8 inches and one at 14 inches. It remains an Assault 2 weapon, the first one being Strength 6, AP-2, Damage 1, that was the previous 5-inch profile, and then the longer range shots are all at Strength 5, AP-1, Damage 1. Previously that was the profile out to 10 inches. Overall I'd say that that's a massive improvement. You get the better damage out to a further range than you did before. The only small nerf that it's taken is that it previously was a 15-inch range weapon, now it's a 14-inch, though that's kind of rare that it's going to make all that big a difference. I think it's going to be interesting to see what people choose to take out of the Fire Warriors. With the strikes you get the option of a single shot out to 36-inch range. With the breaches you now basically get a far more powerful shot within 8 inches, and a similar sort of shooting to the strike team at a more medium range. I guess perhaps strike teams might be a bit more effective for holding down home field objectives and breaches for advancing. With all the rewards for getting close in Monka and Koyon, I wouldn't be surprised if breaches might edge it a bit. Finally though, we also have some profiles for a whole bunch of drones. They do remain at a ballistic skill 5+, probably able to be buffed by a drone controller like before, and otherwise their main stat line change is they all seem to have gone up to 10-inch movement rather than 8 inches. It's certainly going to make them a bit faster zipping about the battlefield and repositioning, and I do kind of wonder whether that's going to represent a change in the normal battlesuit movement for any of your crisis suits and your riptides and things. Currently they both have an 8-inch move, so if the drones have increased, I wouldn't be too surprised to see the same for the battlesuits. The other really quite interesting change is that shield drones have gained 2 wounds now, and I can't help but feel the need to apologise to Chaos Space Marine players. Yes, really, Tau shield drones got their 2 wounds before you did. I'm going to guess that this is to make them a touch more tanky with a bit more of a simple mechanic. I suspect that the 2 wounds will be there to replace the 5+ feel no pain that they currently have, with their chance to shrug off incoming fire. From previous leaks and rumours, it does appear that drones might well be part of units now, rather than usually floating slightly awkwardly alongside, in which case it would look like things like shield drones would just be some really good ablative wounds for the squad. Finally, gun drones will certainly be profiting from the pulse carbine changes. Having a threat range at 24 inches is going to make them quite a long-ranged unit now. It'll be interesting to see whether their damage shakes out as being worth it with any buffs that they're able to get. So overall, some fun changes to the Tau guns, though obviously kind of hard to say exactly how strong they're going to be without all of the rest of the army special rules and their points costs. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more. I will certainly keep the regular news coming if we do find out anything more for the Tau, and I'll certainly be reviewing their codex in full once we have the details. Finally, if you would like to help support the channel and keep these regular videos coming, I would just like to mention my Element Games affiliate link down in the video description below. Element Games is a UK-based discount retailer. They give somewhere between 10 and 20% off Games Workshop's miniatures, so it can be a fairly decent way to save a bit of money when buying Warhammer. If you click the link down in the video description below and then you buy anything at all off them, a small amount goes to help support Auspex Tactics, and it doesn't cost you any more whatsoever when you buy something. Can just be a way to help out if you were thinking about buying in some models anyway. I do also have a very similar link for Amazon over in the USA. If you click that and then buy whatever off Amazon, a small amount also goes to help support the channel without costing you more. A massive thank you to you guys who have been using those, and a really big thank you for listening. I'll hope to see you guys next time.